So first things first, Julia, how are you?
I am good. How are you?
I'm okay. It's a bit strange because they issued a curfew here in the Netherlands, and some people are rioting, which is weird. But other than that, I'm fine. I mean, I don't really notice any of it. So it's
Wow, people are rioting against the curfew.
yes, they think it's an infringement upon their freedom. But
Mm,
it's mostly, I mean, I would say it's mostly soccer hooligans who would just need any excuse to go rioting. So it's
hmm
just, I mean, it's just strange. Like last year has been. I see now a continuation of kind of last year, unfortunately. But
Yeah, I think everybody hoped that it would hit the new year and at the strike of midnight, everything would go back to
right,
life
right.
as we knew it before.
And because you had all the positive news with the vaccines, and you thought, okay, maybe we'll be able to do some festivals by
Mm,
summertime, and now
mm,
that's kind
mm,
of dwindling and stuff. So it's a strange time still, but
mm.
luckily we have some more fun things to talk about, like your new album. So let's jump straight into it. I read somewhere that this record was recorded between 2015 and 2019. Now, how do you kind of work on this record amidst doing all the other things that you do? Were there just ideas that you store away for later?
Um, I mean, a little bit. I mean, a lot of stuff happened early on, like from 2015. The song that comes out this week, actually, we all have. That was the first song um, that was written for the record, and that started the ball rolling on writing the record. I was in New York, and so what I do is I tour a lot of the year with Angus, and then when the tour would finish, I would go to New York most of the time. I had some other places that I liked to go as well, but New York was one of the places I really liked to spend time because Thomas was there,
Sure.
and we have a really lovely friendship, and I felt like being in the studio with him and writing was very quickly becoming one of my favorite things to do. So um, I'm somebody who finishes a tour and just wants to keep playing music. Um, I'm not good at doing anything else
Okay.
really. I just want to keep going. So I'd go to New York and I would write with him. And Thomas had a studio down in, I think initially he had it in Dumbo, and then he moved up to Midtown in Manhattan. And yeah, we just, sometimes it would be a situation where I would send him like a voice memo on my phone of an idea I had, at sound check or something, or in a hotel room, and send it to him. And then he would send me back a track that he had built. And
Right.
we did a bit of back and forwards, but mostly he'd build the track and then I'd get to New York and start building it up. And because it was 5 years in the making, it was sometimes 4 or 5 songs a year, sometimes 7 or 8. And by the time we got to 2019 and Annie came on board, we had about 30 songs
Okay.
um, in all different forms. And that's where we knew we were stuck. We were like, okay, it's definitely time to get
Right.
someone on board to help us finish this.
Well, before we get into that, now I'm sure you've answered this question loads of times before, but what makes your connection or your chemistry with Thomas so fruitful?
I think it's something about how he sees me as a person. I always felt very early on with Thomas when I first met him. I must admit, at first, I was a bit in love with Thomas, and and I found him to be someone I was really comfortable being around, and not just comfortable being around, but comfortable being myself around.
Mm.
And he celebrated me and celebrated all of the different parts of me. And I think to some degree, because I started quite young in music, I had learned to curate um, my way of talking and being, even in terms of like press and stuff like that, to be suitable to kind of the image of what the music was that I was making.
Right.
And it wasn't completely who I am. And I felt all of a sudden this person really going, yeah, that's cool, like that part of you. And I was like, oh, that's funny, because I don't bring that out that often. And then also I don't bring that out that often in music. And he was really pushing me to like be that in music, like do that or make that choice or try that. And it opened up a way of songwriting that was really exciting and new to me. And that's where like a song like Unreal came from. It was about the feeling of being with Thomas and feeling so myself and so seen. And yeah, I definitely think that friendship has changed my life in a lot of ways.
Because I can imagine that cultivates kind of an environment where you can be completely free creatively as well, where you don't hesitate to put forth certain ideas.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like from your room that you're also a musician.
I have some guitars. I'll keep it at that.
Well, I think you would know as a creative person that it's sometimes really easy to be creative in your own space and on your own, but you put someone else in the room and it can feel like you're very vulnerable, or you are shy, or you don't want to maybe go for things or try things because it might be embarrassing, or you might make mistakes. And over the years of co-writing and even writing more and more with Thomas, and even with my brother and other writers, I've realized the best part of writing is making a fool of yourself and going for things. And often out of the very bold choices come really interesting ideas. And you have to be willing to try anything, and having an environment that feels safe, where the person really is going to celebrate your triumphs and not ridicule your falls is really special.
So was that kind of the approach then with this new record as well? Did you do a lot of experimenting the last 5 years, where you just try things out, and because it's sonically, it is somewhat different for you?
Yeah, you're right. It is sonically and I think even lyrically different for me. And I think because of a lot of what you just said, a lot of experimenting and trying new ideas. For instance, I hadn't done a lot of spoken word writing. I started to find that to be really fun, where Thomas would play a track and I would find myself just freestyle kind of poetry over the top, and I wasn't singing, I was just speaking things. And I felt like I felt really free doing that. And I found myself following ideas or stories or tangents that I just don't think I would traditionally do with a guitar writing a song, or with a piano writing a song, which is how in the past when I've written songs on my own, it's usually, with the guitar and singing. But all of a sudden I had this quite a built up track that was like Break's a good example of that. Song was really formed when I started writing to it, and he played it and he was just showing me stuff that he was developing. And I said, I want to just try and sing over this one. And he looped it, it went for 8 minutes or something, and set up the microphone, and he just hit record. And I think probably 85% of that song was just that first run through of going, so I left and started dancing under the streetlights, and you saw me, and I saw that you saw me, and I wanted to be, and I don't like your friend. And I just found myself on these adventures in my mind of things that had happened in the past. And
But what I find interesting about it is, I hear from musicians every once in a while that when they write lyrics, it's initially a stream of consciousness thing, where they just talk, or they hum a kind of a melody and certain words kind of flow out, and then only later they kind of find meaning in those things. So was that the same for you then, that you kind of, as you were writing maybe subconsciously these lyrics, that you put something in there, that made sense to you only later?
Yeah, I think that's a really, I think, sometimes you feel like you have to say, this is what this song's about. And that's really not necessarily the truth of how it happens. I think in how you just described that, for Break in particular, that was a song that was written without a preconceived idea about what it was going to be about or about a story. And after the fact, you go, oh, I think it could be about this, or but I feel like in a way I'm just like somebody listening to the song, making up an interpretation that is, as valid as how you hear the song or anybody hears the song. I don't feel like my my version of what it's about is necessarily true or accurate. It's just what I think when I listen to the song now. And I like that about music. I often think that's one of the beautiful things is people write songs. Sometimes they do write them with a meaning, but people hear it completely differently and have their own meaning. And sometimes they don't write it with a meaning at all, and it takes on a meaning after the fact for the writer themselves or for anybody.
Sure. Have you ever had then that somebody else's interpretation kind of changed your own or affected your own? And that doesn't have to be for this particular record, but just in general. Have you ever kind of, as have songs evolved in that way for you?
I think I know that this has happened, and I'm just trying to remember for what song and when that it then started to become that for me.
Well, if it escapes your mind, we can move on. That's okay.
Well, I think very early on in when I first started writing songs, one of the first songs I wrote was a song called Wasted. And the song was I'm so wasted on you, and that was the chorus. And initially I wrote it as a love song about being like punch drunk love on somebody, and I just feel so wasted on you and your company. And I remember before I'd even recorded it, I'd just written it and I played it for a friend, and she said, oh, I love that, because sometimes you really do feel like you're wasted on somebody. And she was talking about the context of being not seen and not completely valued by somebody. And I was like, oh yeah, that's really good. Like that's a great way to think about it. And often when I sing that song now, that's how I think of it.
Okay.
I think of it as not being like, oh, I'm so wasted and drunk and in love. I'm like, you don't really see me.
Well, I find interesting that you give that example, because when I listen to Substance, that kind of had a similar effect on me, where it's this almost play on words where you can you want substance, but there's also the notion of substance abuse, and it's a very interesting. So was that deliberate?
That also wasn't deliberate. That was predominantly about wanting something with somebody that's deeper than just about being with someone because of an idea, an idea of who they think you are, and wanting for someone to love you because of something bigger than that. But I do, you saying that, one of the guys who I wrote that song with was talking about how he liked that as well. And it's nice when things like that happen.
Yeah, it's the line, you're giving me nothing, it's fucking me up. That's a perfect description of what drugs or alcohol or any kind of substance abuse will do to you. So I find that very interesting.
Well, there you go, Robin. You're the person who's now changed that for me now forever.
Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to.
No, in a good way. I'm going to be on stage just like, yeah.
Okay, that's good. Well, you mentioned the first song that you started working on was We All Have, the next single. When that idea started, did you always have that male vocal and maybe in particular Matt in mind?
No, actually, when we first wrote it, we felt that the song was really finished. We actually lived with that original version for the whole time. Very few changes were made. And when Annie came on board, she removed a few parts, I think, and also added in some, from memory, some, I think, ream and some subs. And, we were really, again, like I always felt a real affinity and affection for that song because it was the first song we had created together. And but it was Thomas who last year, I think it was in 2020, and he said to me, I really think it would benefit from a deep male vocal coming in and saying love is all we needed to be here for. And I really liked the idea. Of course, I love Matt and I love the National, and he's just remarkable. And when Thomas said, I'm going to ask Matt if he wants to sing on it, it was like, yeah, that's definitely, that's going to make the song complete. And I didn't realize it needed that, or that the song was incomplete. It felt finished. So it was very, years and years later, and Matt did such a beautiful job. And it's a real moment, I feel like, when his voice comes in, it really hits you. And it's such an important sentiment to me. You know, it's very simple, just like that's what we need to be here for. But when he says it, I don't know, I really feel it. So
do you remember the mindset you were in as you wrote that song? Because it is a very optimistic kind of, it has a very optimistic outlook, I would say. The line.
Yeah, sorry, go on. I interrupted you.
No, that's fine. I wrote down the line to be okay for now. So that the idea of it's okay that things aren't going your way all the time. I mean, you have to kind of that's part of life in a way. You shouldn't dismiss those feelings, and then it's very optimistic, I would say, that song. So what mindset were you in when you wrote that?
Yeah, I guess I mean, it's again this sort of like there's a little bit of making up at this stage so many years after the fact. So
Fair enough.
It's like when people ask me questions about my childhood, I just feel like going, I remember nothing before 20. Like it's just like gone. But I do remember snippets of time, and I think we all have, at least like looking back now, I feel like that's always been a sentiment that I've tried to keep alive in my experience of the challenges that life presents, is that we have the capacity to be okay, even when it is really difficult. I really, really wanted that song to come out last year. And I'm really happy it's coming out now, because of course it's a time where it's, I feel like a really nice message to put into the world, that we do have the capacity as humans to be okay. I'm not saying, and I also strongly believe it's totally okay not to be okay. I think it's like a very important part of being a human to not feel like you have to be fine all the time.
Right.
But yeah, I like that sentiment of the optimism of things will fall apart, and you just need to let it be that for when it's that.
Maybe this is somewhat of an unfair question, but if we look back at last year, 2020, and I mean, you wrote, you did a song for the bushfire relief, and it was just in general a very tough year. But have you found any silver linings, either personally or maybe in the music that you do, or just looking at the world?
Yeah, I mean, I think probably one of the things I felt like the year did for me was it gave me a really a new perspective on this, just what I said before, on not being okay. And I think in the past I have really struggled to sit in the discomfort of not feeling quite right about myself, or also sitting with people that are close to me in their discomfort. And the year opened up a lot of doors for me to sit in that, and sort of face what you think is like a beast of a feeling. But I think by sitting in it, sometimes you can realize that you're quite strong and resilient, and have a capacity to get through things. And I think about that not necessarily in relation to, to COVID, but just also just in relation to to mental health, and to how we are all individually surviving as humans. And that's something that I think when you're busy and you work hard, and I've always been a hard worker, you can avoid that through through being a workaholic or being always on tour and always always performing, and that was something that surprised me, how I guess how much of it I had avoided that before.
Okay. Is that where a song like Fire in Me then comes from as well, that you kind of find that strength in yourself?
Yeah, I mean, I wrote Fire in Me a few years ago, a couple of years
Okay.
ago. So, but I think now for Fire in Me is like when I sing it, I definitely feel like where it came from is I'm a very, I think I am a strong person, and I definitely I'm all of those things, I guess. It's like that's what the record is. It's like I like that about this record, and how I tried to reflect that in the album artwork was this multifaceted reflection of being a human, and it's not one thing. You're never one thing, and it's never that simple. It's a bit of a mixed bag, and something like Fire in Me is that really that feeling of being empowered and being able to do anything, and survive at all costs. And then you got a song like I Am No One, which is just like feeling that small and feeling that insignificant and making really bad choices and not being conscious of what you're doing in the world, and having guilt and shame around that. And so I guess, yes, Fire in Me is that resilience and is that strength, but the album also reflects that other part of how I feel about myself.
And to kind of create this cohesive whole within the album, am I right in saying that Annie played a big part in that? Because you mentioned you had about 30 songs kind of somewhat done, and then you have to distill it down to about 13. So how did you do that?
Annie is a really incredible person. I mean, she's deeply funny and highly intelligent and very warm, and she cares a lot. And one of the first things she did was she came into this, once she decided to take on the project, she came into the studio and Thomas and I played her the songs, and she sat there with a notepad and pen and listened through every song, and kind of made a few comments, but mostly was just really listening. And it was like in that moment, or she had decided on the songs she wanted to work on, and some of the songs she felt were really like very, very close and didn't change too much. And some songs she was like, let's try a really a new direction. And then some songs, they were completely transformed by her kind of her direction. She was really, I loved her fierceness. She was somebody who I felt safe with, in a way that when she questioned me or she brought something up about a lyric or an idea, I felt like she was asking me for the right reasons, and it wasn't to put me down or to make me feel insecure. It was to push me to be more honest. And I really liked that about working with her, because there were some songs like 60 Summers that wouldn't be what they are without her having said, tell me more about this song and tell me more what it's about and tell me why you're saying that lyric, or tell me what that lyric means. And I'm not saying that it's like, I think there's a lot of really great producers out there that do that. Working with her, I was completely blown away by her real care for each element of it, and really made me feel special, and like made me work really hard. And that was that was great. She definitely knew where we were going.
You mentioned the title track, so let's jump into that one to round off. Then, what was it that she kind of helped you get past, or what kind of push did she give you to get that song where it needed to be?
I think initially the song was called Better Like This. It was like, I really I liked the melodies, and I liked the direction of the song, but it lyrically it was quite light. It was sort of about this, sitting in the back of your car, making out, having a good time, and it makes me feel good, and you make me feel good. And But it wasn't really, I guess, at the heart of what I was writing about. There were some lyrics that she sort of said, can you tell me more about this lyric? Like, why do you not want this person to say sorry? Or why do you not want? And I started to talk about a relationship that I was in that had been really important to me, still is really important to me, and a period of my life where I was spending my summers in Australia, and I'd tour all year round in Europe and the US, and then I'd come home for Christmas, which is summer in Australia, and I'd get home to this town where I grew up, and I would spend the summers with a friend of mine, and I guess probably you feel the same way about summer. For you, it's a very celebratory time, and it's got a lot of nostalgia attached because people are out and about, and there's this feeling of like love is in the air and magic can happen, and we were having really lovely times, and we were on our third summer in a row that we had spent together in our town, and we had this amazing night out, and we were dancing at a party, and she turned to me and she said, sort of grabbed me by the shoulders and looked me in the eyes, and she said, can you believe we only have 60 summers left? And I felt the real weight of how quickly life will come and go. I wasn't unaware before that of the finite nature of experience as a human, but I felt very connected to how brief it is in the nature of the seasons, because I felt like it's one thing to say you have like, I don't know, 60 years maybe if you're lucky to live, but 60 summers felt like you really get a sense of how quickly summer comes and goes, and all of a sudden it's summer again. And I felt like only 60 of them, it put a fire in my belly. Like I had to really live, and I really had to live in a way that was going to be something I was proud of and something I could, look back on. And I guess started thinking more about those moments when you're not going to be here anymore. And as I was telling the story to Annie said, that's the song. That's what you have to sing about. And so the song became this story about sort of people getting lost along the way. And, the first chorus is about those simple things that probably at the time of death, you remember the moments shared with loved ones. And then the second chorus is about, we're carrying all these bags around now, and we went for the money and we went for the success and we went for this thing, but at what cost, and the kind of outro is this really, how I often like to sing, but never sing, like this very wailing of, we've only got 60 summers, like a desperate reminder of, we'll be 6 feet under very soon. So do it the right way.
And I would say, especially with the year that we've had, that message becomes even more important because we had a summer where we couldn't do anything. So it's like you say, it kind of emphasizes the point that time is fleeting, and then we have to make the best of it. So one last question then, because I felt that when I listened to the album as a whole, it felt very summery in a way. Maybe it's because of some of the horns that were used sparingly, and but have you had the same sense? It does feel summer night, kind of a summer night kind of vibe.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, I definitely feel like that. It feels like hot and sweaty, and I think a lot of the lyrics. It reminds me of moments and nights in summer, but I also feel like musically it has this real pulsing to it, and that's sort of particularly Australian summer because it's very hot down here. But it is that feeling. It's just like it's so the kind of world is alive in the heat, and I think the record really suits that feeling. So it will be coming out as we go into winter down here, but for you guys it'll probably be the perfect record.
Yeah, exactly. Well, yeah, let's hope that. I don't I'm just gonna try and be optimistic. Let's hope then that by the time that there's summer over here, you get to come here and do a couple of shows. But
Oh my
obviously,
God, it's absolutely a dream. I just I talk to my booking agents quite often and just say, what do you guys think? And it's always bad news at the moment, but I'm hoping I ask enough times, eventually they'll say, okay, you can do this and this is how it's going to work. And I think that eventually we'll have ways around,
oh sure.
We're in a good place now. So it looks like some shows are happening down here, which is exciting. And, the dream is to get back up to Europe and see you guys and be there again. I really miss it.
Yeah, I think in general, human beings are very resilient, and we'll get through this like we get through anything. So
Yeah, I
let's just hope
agree.
for the best. Julia, it was
Yeah.
an absolute pleasure to talk to you. Thank you so much.
You too, Robin. Really lovely to speak with you, and I hope you have a lovely rest of your day.
And you too. All right. Have a good one.
Okay.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Bye
Bye.
bye.